I want you to picture a very specific moment. It's like 2 a.m. You're lying in bed, just staring at the shadows on the ceiling. The house is quiet.
Mm-hmm.
And you're doing that mental checklist. You know the one. You're running through your life. Job. It's solid. Bank account isn't overdrawn. You have friends, maybe a partner. You went to that dinner party last week and, posted the photo that got 100 likes. On paper, you have successfully completed the assignment of being an adult.
And yet you're staring at the ceiling?
And I'm staring at the ceiling, and there is this hollow thud in my chest, a sort of background radiation of anxiety, a feeling of, oh, is this it? Shouldn't I be happier? Everyone else looks happier.
That right there, that's the trap. That specific thought, I should be happier, is actually the mechanism that is making you miserable.
Which feels completely backward. I mean, we live in a culture that treats positivity like a religion. If you aren't smiling, you're failing.
Right.
We are just bombarded with live, laugh, love, be more productive, optimize your morning routine, manifest your destiny. We are told the goal of life is to get more happiness, more money, more experiences.
But what if the more is the problem? What if that constant fixation on the positive is actually what's generating the negative?
That is the counterintuitive punch in the gut we are dealing with today. We are doing a deep dive into The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Feck by Mark Manson. And before you roll your eyes at the title, because I know it sounds like some edgy teenager wrote it on a bathroom stall, this isn't just a book about swearing.
No, not at all. It's really a book about values. It's a philosophical argument disguised as a self-help book. It argues that we are suffering from a crisis of prioritization. We give too many facts about too many things.
It's a philosophy of subtraction in a world of addition. The mission for this deep dive is to figure out why caring about less, or rather caring about the right things, is the actual path to a good life. It sounds so wrong, but the more I looked at the source material, the more I realized how much energy I waste on things that just don't matter.
It's about budgeting your emotional energy. But to understand why we need to do that, we have to start with the character who is pretty much the antithesis of a self-help guru.
Charles Bukowski.
The man, the myth, the absolute disaster.
Yeah, if you aren't familiar with Bukowski, you shouldn't picture a guy in a suit giving a TED Talk.
No.
Picture a guy who looks like he slept in a gutter because, well, he often did. He was an alcoholic, a chronic gambler, a womanizer, and frankly, a bit of a jerk.
And a loser by any societal standard. He spent decades working as a letter sorter at the post office. It was a miserable, soul-crushing, repetitive existence. He'd work all day, get screamed at by his boss, and then come home and drink himself into oblivion while typing out poetry on a typewriter that's probably missing a few keys.
And the rejection, I mean, it wasn't just for a few months. He was writing and sending stuff out for 30 years. The feedback he got was just brutal. Editors called his work disgusting, depraved, crude. He was a guy nobody wanted to touch.
Until he turned 50. A small independent publishing house offered him this tiny deal. It wasn't much money, but it was a lifeline.
So he had a choice.
A choice. Stay at the post office until he died, or quit and try to write full-time. He quit. He wrote his first novel, Post Office, in 3 weeks. And suddenly, he becomes this literary sensation. He becomes the laureate of American lowlife.
Now, here's where the traditional self-help narrative would just hijack the story. They'd say, look, he believed in himself, he persevered, he visualized his success on a vision board.
But that's complete nonsense in this case. Bukowski didn't succeed because he transformed into a winner. He didn't start doing yoga and repeating affirmations. He succeeded because he knew he was a loser, and he accepted it. He didn't try to hide his ugliness or his flaws. He leaned into them. He wrote about being a drunk. He wrote about being a gambler. He was radically honest about his own brokenness.
He didn't try to be something he wasn't.
He had zero interest in improving himself in the traditional sense. Even after he became famous, he'd show up to poetry readings hammered. He'd insult the audience. Success didn't change his internal nature. And the most telling detail, the thing that really encapsulates Manson's point here, is what Bukowski chose to have written on his tombstone.
2 words. Don't try.
Don't try.
Now, hold on, because I can hear people listening to this right now shouting at their speakers, don't try, that's terrible advice. If I don't try, I lose my job. If I don't try, I don't pay rent. Is he literally saying we should just lay on the couch and rot?
No, and that's the common misinterpretation. It's not about a lack of action. Bukowski wrote thousands of poems. He worked hard at his craft. Don't try isn't about effort. It's about motive. It's about the authenticity of the desire.
Unpack that a bit for me.
Okay, think about it this way. If you were trying to be cool, what is the one thing you definitely aren't?
Cool. Cool people just are. If you have to try, you've already failed.
Precisely. If you are standing in front of a mirror repeating, I am happy, I am happy, I am a successful person, why are you doing that? You are doing it because you feel unhappy and unsuccessful.
Oh.
The act of trying to be happy implies that you currently lack it. You are reinforcing the lack.
This is what Manson calls the backwards law, right? The idea that pursuing a positive experience is in itself a negative experience.
And accepting a negative experience is a positive experience. It's a paradox.
Let's dig into the why of that because it breaks my brain a little.
Yeah.
Why is pursuing positivity negative?
Because it highlights what you don't have. Every time you yearn for a better life, you are unconsciously telling yourself that your current life isn't good enough. It creates a gap.
A gap.
A gap between where you are and where you think you should be. And that gap is where all the misery lives.
It's like when I see someone on Instagram on a yacht in Greece. Suddenly, my living room looks smaller, my coffee tastes worse. The pursuit of that yacht life fantasy makes my actual reality feel like garbage.
Exactly. But if you accept the reality, okay, I'm in my living room, it's a Tuesday, I'm a bit bored. If you accept that boredom without judging it, without wishing it was a yacht, the suffering just, it dissipates. You're just there. The acceptance of the mundane removes the sting.
But we don't just accept it, do we? We do the opposite. We spin out. Manson describes this thing called the feedback loop from hell, and I swear I've never felt more seen in my life.
It's the mental epidemic of our time. It really is.
So Manson uses this example of Sarah. Sarah is worried about a job interview. Okay, that's standard, right? Everyone gets nervous. But Sarah doesn't just feel nervous. She notices she's nervous, and then she thinks, why am I so nervous? Confident people don't sweat like this. I'm sabotaging myself. So now she's anxious about being anxious.
And it layers. She's anxious about her anxiety, which makes her even more anxious. It's a spiral.
I do this with anger. I'll get mad about something stupid like traffic, and then I'll think, I shouldn't be mad, I meditate, I'm supposed to be enlightened, and then I get angry at myself for being angry, and then I feel guilty for being angry at myself. It's a spiral.
You're feeling bad about feeling bad.
Why do we do this? Animals don't do this. A dog gets sad, it mopes for 10 minutes, then it chases a squirrel. It doesn't sit there and think, I'm such a bad dog for moping.
Right. Humans have this unique and sometimes terrible ability to think about our own thoughts. It's a blessing and a curse.
Right.
But the feedback loop from hell is, it's exacerbated by our culture. This is where the societal context comes in. We live in a world that constantly broadcasts a highlight reel of everyone else's life.
The everything is awesome filter. Right. You open your phone and see your college roommate's promotion, your cousin's perfect wedding, your neighbor's genius kid. And the subtext is always, look how happy everyone else is. So when you feel anxious or sad, you don't just think, I'm sad. You think, I'm broken. Something is wrong with me.
It pathologizes normal human emotions.
Exactly. We've decided that negative emotions are a sign of failure. But the solution Manson proposes, and he draws on Buddhism here, is the middle path. It's the realization that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional.
Wait, okay, distinguish those two for me. Pain versus suffering.
Okay, so pain is the direct physical or emotional sensation. I am nervous, that's pain. Suffering is the story you tell yourself about the pain. I am nervous, and that means I'm a coward, and I'll never get the job, and I'm a total failure. That is suffering. If you can just stop at I am nervous, the loop breaks.
So the trick isn't to stop feeling bad. It's to stop judging yourself for feeling bad. Yes, you have to be able to say, okay, I feel like crap today, that's fine, it's just a Tuesday.
Yeah.
When you stop fighting the negative emotion, it loses its power over you. It's the subtle art in action. You stop giving a feck about your own negativity.
Which is incredibly freeing, but there is another layer to this misery, and it has to do with who we think we are. We all want to be the hero of the movie. We all want to be special.
Trap of exceptionalism.
Manson tells the story of Derek, and I think every listener knows a Derek. Or maybe, you know, in our darker moments, we are Derek. Derek is smart, he's charming, he has high potential, but Derek is essentially a leech.
He's the guy crashing in his parents' basement at 30, not because he's fallen on hard times, but because he refuses to take a job that he feels is beneath him.
He's waiting for the CEO position to be handed to him because, well, because he's Derek. He's special.
This is classic entitlement. But what's interesting is how Manson breaks entitlement down. We usually think of entitlement as the Derek example. I'm awesome, so I deserve special treatment.
Right.
But there's a second, sneakier type. I'm a victim, so I deserve special treatment.
Oh, that's a big one. The I'm uniquely damaged entitlement.
Yes, my pain is worse than anyone else's pain, therefore the rules don't apply to me. I shouldn't have to work hard, or be nice, or follow through because I've suffered so much.
Wow.
Both the Derek I'm awesome type and the I'm a victim type are actually the same mechanism. They are both ways of convincing yourself that you are the exception to the rule, that you are a special snowflake.
Where did this come from? Were we always like this? Or is this like a modern invention?
Manson points the finger at the self-esteem movement that really kicked off in the 60s and 70s. We started operating on this theory that high self-esteem leads to success. So parents and teachers started pumping kids full of unconditional praise.
The participation trophy era.
Exactly. You're special just for showing up. You're a genius.
Yeah.
The problem is self-esteem that isn't earned through actual competence or overcoming adversity is incredibly fragile. We created a generation that feels entitled to feel good all the time and then just collapses the moment they hit real friction.
And this leads to the hardest pill to swallow in the whole book, the reality check. The bell curve.
It's simple math, but nobody wants to hear it. By definition, average is where most people are. The vast majority of us in the vast majority of areas are average.
Ouch. Even hearing you say that creates a little resistance in me. Like, I'm not average. I have a podcast.
But think about it. You might be an exceptional podcaster,
Mm-hmm.
but are you an exceptional basketball player, an exceptional chef, an exceptional accountant, an exceptional father? Probably not all at once.
Okay, fair.
We might be great at one thing, but we are average at almost everything else.
But average has become an insult. It's basically synonymous with failure.
And that is the toxicity of our culture.
Right.
We believe that if we aren't changing the world or becoming a billionaire or curing cancer, our lives don't matter. But the irony is that pressure to be exceptional is what makes us feel like failures.
So if we accept that we're average, then what? It sounds so depressing. Welcome to your mediocre life.
It's actually the opposite. It's liberation. If you accept that you don't have to be special to be valid, the pressure just evaporates. You don't have to cure cancer to be a good person. You can just exist.
Ah.
You can enjoy a simple sandwich. You can enjoy a walk with your dog. You can do things because you like them, not because you're trying to prove to the world that you're some kind of god.
It moves the motivation from validation to enjoyment.
Precisely. And once you stop trying to be the special chosen one, you can start dealing with the reality of life.
Yeah.
And the reality of life involves suffering.
This brings us to the next section, which I found the most fascinating. The value of suffering. And we have to talk about Hiro Onoda.
This story is unbelievable. It's like a movie script that got rejected for being too unrealistic, but it actually happened.
Okay, set the scene for us.
It's 1944, World War II. Hiro Onoda is a Japanese soldier sent to Lubang Island in the Philippines. His commanding officer gives him strict orders. You are to conduct guerrilla warfare. You are to disrupt the enemy. You are forbidden to surrender. We will come back for you.
So he goes into the jungle.
He goes into the jungle. In August 1945, the atomic bombs drop. Japan surrenders. The war ends. But Onoda doesn't know, or rather he refuses to believe it. He sees leaflets dropped by American planes saying the war is over, and he thinks this is a trick. This is Allied propaganda.
So he stays.
He stays for 29 years.
29 years. I can't even wrap my head around that. That's not a camping trip.
It's decades of sleeping in the mud, being eaten by mosquitoes, surviving on stolen bananas and cows he poached from local farmers. He was constantly looking over his shoulder. He even killed people during this time, local villagers, because he thought they were enemy combatants. It was a life of pure, unadulterated struggle and misery.
And he did it because he believed he was serving a higher purpose.
Right. And here's the twist. In 1974, a young Japanese adventurer finally tracks him down and convinces him the war is over. His old commanding officer slides out and formally relieves him of duty. Onoda goes back to Japan. He returns to a hero's welcome.
But the happy ending didn't last.
No, Onoda was miserable. He returned to 1970s Japan, a consumerist, capitalist, modernized society. He saw people obsessed with buying refrigerators and watching TV, and he felt empty.
Wait, he was happier in the bug-infested jungle fighting a fake war than he was in a comfortable apartment. How does that even work?
He essentially said that. Because in the jungle, his suffering had meaning. He was suffering for the emperor. He was suffering for loyalty. It was a noble struggle. But back in Tokyo, he was just an old man in a soft bed. The suffering was gone, but so was the meaning.
This is the core argument of this section, isn't it? That humans can endure almost any how if they have a why.
Exactly. We try so hard to avoid pain, but pain isn't the problem. Suffering without meaning is the problem.
Manson uses the marathon runner analogy here. If I choose to run a marathon, the pain, the blisters, the exhaustion, that feels like triumph. I feel proud of that pain. But if you put a gun to my head and force me to run 26 miles, that same physical pain feels like torture.
The physical sensation is identical. The psychological experience is the complete opposite.
Right.
This tells us that context is everything. We don't want a life without problems. That's boring and, frankly, impossible. We want a life with better problems.
Better problems.
Problems that we choose. Problems that align with our values. If you want the positive of being a rock star, you have to want the negative of hauling gear, sleeping in vans, and playing to empty rooms. If you don't want the negative part, you don't actually want the positive. You just want the fantasy.
So the question we should be asking ourselves isn't, what do I want to enjoy? The real question is, what pain do I want to sustain?
That's the defining question. Who you are is defined by what you're willing to struggle for.
But realizing that we get to choose our struggle leads to a very uncomfortable place. It forces us to take responsibility for everything. And I mean, everything.
Radical responsibility. This is where people usually push back the hardest.
Because it feels unfair. Let's look at the example of Emily from the book. Emily finds out her boyfriend is cheating on her. She didn't do it. She's the victim. He lied. He broke the trust.
Right. And the natural reaction is to say, this is his fault. He ruined my life. I am miserable because of him. And that is true to an extent. It is his fault.
But Manson draws a really sharp line between fault and responsibility.
And this is the crucial distinction. Fault is about the past. Who broke the vase? Who drove the car into the ditch? That's fault. Responsibility is about the present and the future. Who's going to clean up the vase? Who is going to get the car out of the ditch?
So even though it's the boyfriend's fault he cheated, it's Emily's responsibility to deal with her reaction.
Exactly. Nobody else can process her emotions for her. Nobody else can choose how she moves forward. If she stays in the blame mode, he did this to me, she is handing her power over to him.
Right.
She is saying, my happiness depends on this person who hurt me. Taking responsibility, saying, okay, this happened, now what do I do, is the only way to reclaim agency.
But it's so much easier to blame. Blaming feels good. There's a righteous high to being the victim. I'm good, you're bad.
Blaming is a drug. It gives you a temporary hit of moral superiority. But the hangover is helplessness. If everything is someone else's fault, the economy, your parents, your ex, then you are just a leaf blowing in the wind. You have no control.
There's a story about William James, the father of American psychology, that really drives this home. I didn't realize how dark his early life was.
Oh, he was a complete mess. In the late 1800s, he was a young man plagued by health issues, eye trouble, back spasms, stomach problems. He was severely depressed. He felt like a disappointment to his wealthy, successful father. He dropped out of medical school. He was contemplating suicide.
He was at rock bottom.
He was. But one day, while reading a philosopher named Charles Renouvier, he had an epiphany. He decided to conduct an experiment. He had made a pact with himself. He said, for 1 year, I will act as if I am 100% responsible for everything that happens in my life.
Even things that weren't his fault.
Everything. If his back hurt, his responsibility to manage it. If he felt sad, his responsibility to change his thought patterns. He decided that while he couldn't control his circumstances, he could control his interpretation of them.
What happened?
It worked. It completely transformed him. He didn't just survive. He became the most influential psychologist in American history. He later called this the ability to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, the last human freedom.
It's a powerful idea, but it requires us to admit something that our egos really hate, that we might be wrong, that our current way of seeing the world might be flawed.
And this brings us to the danger of certainty. We crave certainty. We want to know the answers. But Manson argues that certainty is the enemy of growth.
He tells the story of Catherine. Catherine is a high-powered attorney. She's smart, she's sharp, and she wins arguments for a living.
And she treats her marriage like a courtroom. Her husband is the opposing counsel. When they fight, she isn't listening. She's gathering evidence. She's preparing her rebuttal. She wants to win.
And predictably, her marriage is just, it's imploding.
Because you can't be intimate with someone if you're constantly trying to defeat them. But Catherine couldn't stop because her whole identity was wrapped up in being right. Being right made her feel safe.
And then her therapist drops a bomb on her.
The therapist asks, what if you're wrong? What if you're wrong about being right?
That's a brain melter.
It stops the ego in its tracks. Manson calls our brains meaning-making machines. We don't see reality. We see our interpretation of reality. We interpret everything to fit our existing beliefs. If you believe your husband is lazy, You will notice every single time he sits down and completely ignore every time he does the dishes. You are confirming your own bias.
So, to grow, we have to cultivate intellectual humility. We have to actively ask, how might I be wrong about this?
It's about being less like a prosecutor and more like a scientist. A scientist wants to find out if their theory is wrong, because that means they've learned something. Being wrong isn't a failure, it's the mechanism of growth.
Speaking of failure, let's talk about how we demonize it. The book uses the baby analogy, which I love because it's so obvious.
A baby learning to walk. The baby stands up, wobbles, and falls on its butt. It does this hundreds of times. Does the baby ever sit there and think, you know what, I'm just not a walker. I tried, I failed. Clearly, bipedalism isn't my path.
I look so stupid doing this. People are judging me. No, the baby just gets up again.
Because at that age, we haven't learned to attach shame to failure yet. Failure is just information. Okay, lean too far left, next time lean right. But as we get older, we start trying to avoid the fall. We stop doing things we aren't immediately good at.
There's the story of James, the other James in the book, the wannabe novelist.
Ah, yes. The guy who has been writing a novel for 15 years but has never written a single page. He loves the idea of being a writer. He tells everyone about his plot, his characters, but he never actually does the work.
Why?
Because if he writes it, it might suck. As long as the novel is in his head, it's a masterpiece. It's perfect. The moment he puts it on paper, it becomes real and it becomes subject to criticism. He is protecting himself from the possibility of failure.
But by protecting himself from failure, he is guaranteeing failure. He's 100% failing to be a writer.
Exactly. The avoidance of failure is a failure.
And usually the thing we are really afraid of isn't the failure itself, it's the rejection. It's people seeing us fail. Which brings us to my favorite actionable part of the book, rejection therapy.
Jia Jiang. This guy is a legend.
Jia Jiang was terrified of rejection. He wanted to be an entrepreneur, but the fear of hearing no just paralyzed him, so he decided to desensitize himself. He invented rejection therapy.
The goal was simple. Get rejected every day for 100 days.
He went out looking for the no.
He did ridiculous things.
What?
He walked up to a complete stranger and asked to borrow $100.
No, obviously.
He went to a PetSmart and asked if he could get a haircut for himself.
No.
But the best one was the Burger King story. He walks into a Burger King and asks the cashier for a burger refill.
Like a soda refill.
Exactly. I'm done with my burger. Can I get a refill?
Right.
And the cashier is just confused. She doesn't scream at him. She doesn't call the police. She just says, sorry, we don't do that.
And that was the breakthrough.
He realized the sky didn't fall. The earth didn't open up. He asked, he got a no, and life went on. The monster he'd built up in his head, rejection, was actually just a small, awkward moment.
It's exposure therapy. By facing the thing he feared, he took away its power.
And this connects back to commitment. We think that keeping our options open makes us free. I won't commit to this career in case a better one comes along. I will commit to this relationship in case I meet someone better. But that's a really shallow freedom.
It's the freedom of a tourist. You see everything, but you understand nothing.
Right. True freedom comes from commitment. When you commit to one thing, one person, one craft, one cause, you dig deep. You experience a depth of meaning that the option surfer never gets. You're limiting your breadth, but you're expanding your depth. And that is where the gold is.
We've covered a lot of ground here. We've gone from don't try to the feedback loop to entitlement to choosing your suffering. But Manson saves the heaviest hitter for the end, the ultimate clarifier.
Death.
It's the topic we try to avoid at all costs. But the book gets very personal here.
It does. Manson talks about a tragedy he experienced when he was 19. He was at a party with a friend, Josh. They were by a lake near a cliff. Josh jumped into the water and never came.
God, 19 years old.
Right.
That shatters your reality.
It's a moment that splits time into before and after. For Manson, it stripped away everything. Suddenly, the things he was worried about, does this girl like me? Are my clothes cool? Did I fail that math test? It all became absurdly trivial.
Death has a way of silencing the noise.
It does. He realized that most of the things he gave a feck about were just distractions. He stopped numbing himself. He stopped trying to impress people. He started living with a sense of urgency.
The Stoics talked about this, right? Memento mori.
Remember, you must die. In our modern world, we think that's morbid. We hide death in hospitals and funeral homes. We pretend we're going to live forever. But the expert analysis here, and this goes back to Ernest Becker's work, The Denial of Death, is that our fear of death drives almost everything we do.
Becker talks about immortality projects.
Right. We are terrified of ceasing to exist.
Mm.
So we try to build things that will outlast us. We write books, we build skyscrapers, we have children, we try to get our names on plaques. We're trying to prove that we matter, that we are permanent.
But we aren't.
We aren't. And accepting that, really accepting that you are going to die, is the only thing that can help you prioritize.
Imagine you are standing on that cliff edge. You have 5 minutes left. Are you thinking about the rude comment someone left on your Facebook post?
Not a chance.
Are you thinking about the promotion you didn't get?
No. You are thinking, did I love the people I cared about? Did I do the things that actually mattered to me? Did I live by my values?
Death asks the question, what is worth struggling for?
And if the answer is nothing, or money, or fame, then you haven't really lived.
Yeah.
Death clears the clutter. It forces you to identify the very few feeks that are actually worth giving.
So let's bring this all the way home. We started this episode staring at the ceiling, feeling that emptiness.
And we realize that the emptiness comes from chasing the wrong things. It comes from the cult of positivity, telling us we need more.
We learned from Bukowski that we shouldn't try to be something we aren't. We should embrace our flaws and stop the feedback loop of judging our own emotions.
We learned that we aren't special snowflakes, and that's okay. Accepting our averageness frees us to enjoy life without the pressure of needing to be a god.
We learned from Enoda that suffering is inevitable, but meaning is what makes it bearable. We have to choose our problems. We have to ask, what pain do I want?
We learned about radical responsibility, taking ownership of our lives, regardless of fault. And we learned that failure is just the path to growth, and rejection is nothing to fear.
And then finally, we looked death in the face and let it tell us what actually matters.
The subtle art isn't about being indifferent. It's not about being a nihilist who sits on a couch and says, nothing matters. It's about being a sniper with your care. You have a limited amount of emotional ammunition. Don't spray it at everything. Aim it at the things that truly define you.
Don't give a feck about the traffic or the rude waiter or the number of likes on your photo. Give a massive feck about your family, your craft, your integrity.
Well said.
I want to leave you with a challenge. It's based on that quote. Who you are is defined by what you're willing to struggle for.
It's the ultimate litmus test.
Stop asking yourself what you want to enjoy. Everyone wants the gold medal. Everyone wants the view from the summit. Instead, ask yourself, what climb are you willing to endure? What pain are you willing to invite into your life because the result is worth it?
Find the struggle that feels like yours.
Because that struggle, that's where your happiness is hiding.
Couldn't have said it better.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. Go pick your better problems. We'll see you next time.